Hello, everyone. I'm Dean Kelley with the Georgia Transparency Coalition, and we're here today with John Deffenbaugh, our former District 1 state representative who is running for office again. And John served 3 terms down there in Atlanta. Last time he was defeated by Colton Moore, who was running for the 53rd District Senate seat this time around. So this is an open seat. And so John is running for this office once again. John, thank you so much for coming today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're here in an undisclosed location in Walker County. But John, for those who don't know you that well, just give us a background and tell us who John Deffenbaugh is.
Okay, well, I won't go back to maybe my birth, but I came down to this area to go to Covenant College. And while I was here, I met my wife, and we were married during my time at the college, and she and I both now have a degree from college. I am a physics major, and my wife has been a school teacher, and she has a master's in reading. So what I have found is that if you vote for me, you get a twofer. Because a lot of the issues in our state is reading, and the advantageousness of reading, of being able to communicate through reading. She is also writing a book right now, is almost ready for publication. It's called Reading Night, and it is how do you make connections with your children, grandchildren, when they don't live near you. We have 2 sons. One lives in Durango, Colorado, and one lives in Salt Lake City.
Wow.
And 2 each grandsons. So we have all boys except for the in-laws, I guess they're called, the wives. But she started reading to them when they were in the faraway places, on Skype and just on the telephone, and they're still doing that, and they're in college now.
Wow, that's good.
They read. If the children are, I have one son that's in Biola, or grandson that's in Biola College out in Los Angeles, and he is a biblical major study. And so they read different books together. My other grandson, that from the Colorado group, is studying. I forget what it is now, but he's in Redding, California, and they still communicate. So what started when they were 3 or 4 years old has connected with them, and a lot of the grandparents who are closer said, how do you do this, because you're this far away, and I'm right here with them, and you have a closer relationship with them. So a lot of other people commented to her about that, so she's writing a book on it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So and my interest in politics has been somewhat consistent, but I became part of the earlier Republican Party in Dade County, Georgia. You know, when I first got here, if you weren't a Democrat, you were not elected. So over the years, that's all changed now. So it's been an interesting time. I served as a commissioner in Dade County for 4 years. In one of those years, I was the chairperson. So I got some things changed, and I was at a meeting not too long ago with them, and they're using 1 or 2 of the things I changed. You know, there's whenever you have children, you'll notice it. Whenever they leave home, 1 or 2 things will stay there. It may be a tradition, it may be a pot or a pan that they take from here, or a piece of furniture. but then they do their own thing, which is good. But I did that for 4 years, and then I was chair of the GOP in Dade County for several years. And at the end of that time, the seat for the District 1 came available. And so, talking with people and all, they suggested maybe I could give that a try. And so I did, and I won 3 times. And that is a chore to run politics, especially when there's 2 or 3 in the same party, and you're probably going to have a runoff. So it's just that one, and then the next one. And the first 2 terms, I had a Democrat running against me, so I had a primary runoff, and then a general election. So, but it all changes. And then Colton Moore came along, and I lost. But I wasn't quite ready to quit.
You've been down. You had 3 terms down there, so you served 6 years down there. So you're kind of an experienced legislator down there. Just for curiosity's sake, when you got down there, did it meet all your perceptions, or were some things that surprised you, or what was the biggest things that you'd say that you learned from your experience down there as a legislator?
That I didn't know a lot of things that I thought I did. That probably was the biggest thing, but it was an awesome experience. You can walk in the chamber down there and feel some of the history that was in the chamber. But when you walk in the chamber with your badge on, and you're responsible then, and it's a very awesome experience. And for that, I'm so proud that people thought enough of me to send me there. And it just was an awesome experience. The positives were people were very much interested in helping you if you wanted to help. They are very fast to ostracize you if you don't want the help. They aren't pressing you for things, to do things. And so that was a little learning experience of what's expected of you. And what's expected, basically the first year, or the first term anyway, is keep your mouth shut. See what's going on, how this system works. It's worked for us for 100 years. Or longer, actually. Yeah,
probably closer to 200.
And there's a reason why things are done the way they are. And if you hire an employee to work for you in just about any capacity at all, and their first day or first few days, they go down there and they tell you exactly how you ought to run this place. And there's 180 other 179 other deputies or other representatives who have been there for some time much too long, I would agree with, but they're there and there's a function for them. They know the system and it's functioning, it's working. And you can come in, just like I made a comment on making a change, a small change when I was in the commission in Dade County. That's one thing. To keep it is another thing. To keep the change. But it was just an awesome experience. I met so many new friends that I'm still friends with, that I have their cell numbers. I'm not sure it's the same cell now because I don't try to call them all the time, but I have Brian Kemp's cell phone that he had when he was the SOS, the Secretary of State. Now, probably it's not the same, and I'm not going to be trying to call on him anyway, but I also had direct contact with Nathan Deal. Went to his mansion, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm. The governor's mansion.
The governor's mansion, yes. And had several events and meetings there with him. And my main goal, this is something that, whether it's just me or whether it's a lot of people, but I'd like to make a comment here if I can.
Absolutely.
It's some of who I am, I guess. And my goal working in the House is to serve my constituents by seeking good relationships with others. Because it's a team effort, believe me. When you pass a bill or a resolution, you have to have 4 or 5 leading people on it in order for it to get any further. If you just have the dissenters that sign the bill or resolution, it doesn't go anywhere. It sits in the basket up in the front. And after a while, it gets thrown away.
Yeah.
So you have to have those relations, no matter how oppositionally you are, if you want to get anything done. And so I'm looking at that. I don't see any profit in creating acrimonious encounters, criticizing, judging others. Experience has taught me to seek the good in others, to be an encourager. Being a team player has many benefits. It builds bridges, and being a servant means that you have to serve. You have to consider others before yourself. You may disagree and have an opposing views, but it is the ideas should promote growth, not division. So I, especially after the first term, I went down there and I made as many friends and I was on as many committees, and I ended up being on some high-profile committees. I was on the Transportation Board, which is a huge board. It's not the biggest, but it's a very board that has a lot of control over money being spent.
I'd say there's a lot of money in that.
There is a lot of money that was spent. I'm also in regulated industries, and I'm not now, but I will be before long again. Which controls barbers to hairdressers to electricians, anybody who requires
A
license for any reason, doctors, dentists, they all, even though they have their own boards, they still work through regulated industries. And the biggest one is the beer and liquor.
Yeah.
So, that's a high profile committee. And also one of my best ones that I've been on is the veterans. I am a Navy retired veteran. So I have really enjoyed that committee because I've been able to help a lot of veterans. And if you're interested, I can give you some stories about some that I had some interest with and some control with. And then the next 2 committees were banking and small business, which are very important to our community here.
Absolutely, especially small business.
And
of course, banking's always important, but
yeah, well, I mean,
but small business probably hasn't got the attention that it should have had.
It should have and could have and does have if you work it right. And those 2 committees, after my second term, I was vice chair of those committees. So, I was getting more control. And you say, well, you've been down there one or two times and you need to let someone else do it. But that's not how that system works. You have to spend some time on the bench, and then you get some promotions, just like you do at work. A good salesman, which I was a salesman for my career in industrial electronics, my money-making career. Politics is not, but was that you built relationships with your customers. When you would go in, I have several customers that are still in town here, Wingfield Scales, that I had access to basically the building. And we worked together. I provided them what they needed, not what I wanted to sell necessarily, but what they needed to make their job better. So there's a lot of things you do that time has to be part of.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm not sure how long is long enough. But I know that 3 or 4 terms would be the minimum that you would want someone there to start being very crass about it, bringing home the bacon.
Like I said, you've been in there 3 terms, so you've learned a lot and you've enjoyed your experience down there. And of course, you're running again, so you obviously feel like you still have something to contribute.
Yes.
So, what? Presuming you get elected this time, what are your goals? What do you want to do when you get down there this time?
Well, my main goal is that because of a lot of the events that I did, and one of the big events was Sandra Deal had a Read Across Georgia program for the pre-Ks and first graders, things like that. And because my wife's a reading teacher, that's where it comes into two for also. The two of us would read at a lot of these schools. And I was also invited then to go to some higher level schools to do interviews with different classes and things like that. And one of the things I found would be very disappointing to me was that their knowledge about our government.
Yeah.
I asked probably, I've been in maybe 3 or 4 history classes or government classes, and I would ask the question, what is our form of government? And never did I get the right answer.
What answer was they give you?
The closest they came was a democracy.
Yeah. Well, they hear it all the time.
That's what they hear. And they hear it on the news, on the television. They hear it on the, if they do read any newspapers or listen to any news reports, it's all democracy. Some would say socialism.
That's kind of where we're headed.
Well, and through some of the lookings and studying that I did, socialism and communism
Pretty
were
close.
the same.
Yeah.
Everyone equal, which is the appeal, and everyone gets everything for free, which is the appeal, but the result is everyone equal, everyone poor.
Yeah, it destroys initiative.
So, anyway, I don't know where I was now as far as...
We were talking about what you want to accomplish when you get down there.
Okay. With the lack of knowledge of high schools, in my first year, I worked with Jeff Mullis. He had a Senate resolution for requiring teaching of the defib that's put in every school now, defibrillator. And I helped him get that through the House, and we got it through the House. And it was a mandatory time that teachers spent on how to use the defibrillator. It wasn't a lot of time. And I don't think teaching what our government is a lot of time. It's just constant. It's just doing it. And the only person I ever found out to be able to tell me what it was, our form of government, is a person who had just become a citizen.
Yeah.
and they
Have to take the test.
They had to take the test, but all the other classes never knew it. So I asked them, I said, do you pledge allegiance to the flag? And they said, yes, every day. I said, well, let's stand up and do it twice today. I pledge allegiance, put your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. And then we sat back down again. And I've had teachers afterward tell me, we talked about this.
They're probably embarrassed.
Maybe, but that's sad.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to really do is to get that passed. And one other issue. There's so many things that I'm working on.
What do you think about school rating system?
The school rating, the grading, or rating?
Of the schools.
The rating of the schools?
Yeah, what is that called, Dan?
Oh, I don't remember. I know Copeland was filling us in on it. We interviewed him. Just as how they rate the schools and the different criteria for that.
Based on, if they have troubled children and discipline problems. There was a teacher on Facebook that really brought that up.
Teaching,
I think the issue is that they're talking about is that when it comes to discipline, I think that's one of the main issues is that
it lowers the rate
the way the system is set up. It really discourages the schools from actually disciplining the students, because if they do, then it basically gives them a negative score for that. So you wind up not wanting to discipline your kids because you don't want that negative score to show up on your reporting system. That's basically the complaint.
That's not the only issue. I'm sure that is one.
Yeah.
But the one that is also in Dade County is that Title I schools get a lot more money than non-Title I, and some of that's that same rating thing, how they rate it. But one of the ratings is the average income of the. So if you have a higher income average,
get less money.
You get less money for Title I. Now you take a very small school or a small county like Dade, and then you put a fairly good-sized college into it, which has professors, doctorates, and a lot of them, and raises the average income of Walker County, or of Dade County, I'm sorry. So they get less money for their Title I schools.
Right.
So it's not a perfect system, but they do need some way of rating them so that they can get the money or the accolades or whatever it is to help them. Now, in Walker County, one of their better schools is Fairland School. It's number one rated in most areas of grading, and so they don't get any Title I.
Well, and the families up there and their parents probably have certainly a higher than average income for this area.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of issues like that's dealt with at the House. There's that's probably one of the largest committees, is the Education Committee, because of the many requirements that they have on them. So, that's another issue that a lot of people work with. While I was there, we got them a decent raise. We got another issue when I was there was the state people who carried a gun. And we got them a 20% increase in pay because they hadn't been increased in pay for 10, 15 years. And if they're going to be carrying a gun, you want to have them trained. You want to have them
absolutely
feeling more comfortable doing it. So, that kind of thing is, you're never sure what's the next bill going to be coming.
And there's a lot of them.
there's a lot of them, and I have been condemned by not bringing bills. I spent my time helping the people, the constituents. But whenever you think of making a bill, you have to send it through through council, and this, there's a whole staff, probably 30 attorneys,
Help you write the bills,
to
legislative
help
council.
to write the bills in them. Then you got to put it in the hopper. Then you got to go to committees. Then you got to get through voting on two sides.
And it's got to make it through the, what they call it, crossover day. If you don't make it through
Crossover,
day, it is
before
forgotten anyway.
crossover. But if it passes, then you have to put it in all the law books, which are, I don't know how many thousands there are. It may be more computerized now than before. But you look at the expense of making a bill.
How many bills are introduced down there on a probably 1,000 or more?
Oh, about 1,500, 1,800.
Which will overwhelm majority, of course, don't ever make it through.
About
Certainly
3 to
don't make it.
500 make it.
Yeah.
But even
I'm
that,
not surprised it was that many.
but the cost of doing it. I didn't get down there to spend your money and my money on things that weren't necessary. And so I was very careful. The only thing that I passed was a resolution that I started because of my events with the veterans, and that you see a lot of these veterans coming back from 2 or 3 terms in Afghanistan. If they have their whole body intact at that point, their mind is kind of warped. To seeing the death, to doing the death, to just being in a situation where they're fearful all the time.
Yeah.
And when they come home, it seems to me that the military says, "Okay, Joe, you have all your arms and legs, and is there any problem with you that we need to deal with before you are discharged?" "No, I feel fine. I'm a man." And then they go home and they get divorces. They have trouble fighting at home. They can't hold a job. A
lot of them commit suicide. I mean, that's
a lot of them are committing suicide. So what I made was a resolution to go to the federals, the president, and to the Congress there. And it was to consider making more time before they are discharged, not just take their word for things.
Give an evaluation.
Much stricter evaluations, especially those who have been over there multiple times.
And in combat, certainly.
Yeah. And it passed 100%. And so I feel pleased and convinced that was a good thing to do. And I had a lot of people sign on to it to begin with, which made it easier to pass. There was the leaders of the Veterans Committee, and there are a lot of veterans in this house.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so it needs to be addressed like that some way. So that's been good.
Well, John, we're about out of time here, so how about you just kind of sum up?
Wow, that went pretty quick.
Yeah. Won't you just kind of sum up why people should vote for you for District 1 House Representative?
Boy. I guess the first of all, I have the commitment to spend the time. And I think I've been led by a lot of people and the Lord to say, this is what I ought to do. I mean, it's not a matter of I have to do this. A lot of people say, well, you get down there and you get this money, you get retirement whenever you have 1 or 2 terms, and that's not the case. But you can get a retirement down there if you pay for it and if you last at least 8 years. Now, and also you can get medical benefits. Your insurance, base insurance, is paid for medical. I have chosen not to take either of those. So I'm not trying to get a retirement check. I'm not trying to do it for medical purposes. I'm trying to do it for the people. And there's been a lot of experiences that it's been overwhelming to me that I've been able to accomplish helping people. So, and one other thing, real quick, is that Walker State Prison. I don't know whether many of you have been involved in it. A lot of the churches are involved in it now for mentoring, which is fantastic. But the recidivism rate there is less than 5%. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the average recidivism rate in most of the prisons, state prisons in Georgia, is 15, 20, 30%. So I'd like to work on with some people there to try to get that carried over to other prisoners or prison systems as well.
All right.
So thank you all very much. Please vote the 9th of June, right?
Yeah, they moved it back.
9th of June. So look forward to being in communication with you. If you want to talk to me, call me on my cell, 423-400-8128. Thank you all very, very much, Dean.
We appreciate you meeting with us today.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you'll be hearing from John more in the coming weeks. And be sure and vote. Thank you very much.
Please vote.